When things are difficult, it is quite obvious that the kind of thoughts that we're going to have are negative, and to stay positive seems quite impossible. What if I told you that there is a technique that can help you to switch your thinking from negative to positive? And dare I say, it is the simplest way that there is to do that. So in this episode, we're going to talk about that technique that can help you shift your thinking from negative to positive. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Up It and the Actionables podcast. My name is Peyton. Let's get a little nerdy and look at what science has to say about how we think. As some of you may know, that our brain has something called as the negativity bias. It is because of this negativity bias that we tend to hold on to negative incidents more easily than to positive ones. So let's say, for example, you had an amazing day, but at the end of the day, somebody says one negative comment to you. We are more likely to fixate on that negative comment. This negativity bias of our brain is strongly influenced by the meaning that we give to things in our lives. When we are kids, we have no judgment about things. But by the time we become adults, we have picked up on this skill to give meaning and make sense out of things and categorize them as being good, bad, or ugly. And from an evolutionary point of view, that's great because it helps us and keeps us from physical harm and danger. However, unless and until we are in a physical danger, this can actually work against us if you're not careful. If you think of yourself as being a negative person because you tend to think negatively at times, what you're doing essentially is you are associating your habit of thinking negative thoughts with being a negative person. And both are very different things. You are not a negative person just because you may think of negative thoughts at times. And why is this important to understand? Because once you understand that you may have a habit of thinking negative thoughts, you can come around to change that habit. Our brain is wired to think of a situation as positive or negative only because of the meaning that we associate to things in our lives. Comment below and tell me what you think. Do you agree? Do you believe that the meaning that we associate to things is what makes them right or wrong in the first place? I'd love to hear your thoughts. So every time we associate a negative meaning with a situation, then our recall value of that negative stimuli will obviously be greater, which is why it is extremely important we are careful about the meaning that we associate with things. Having negative thoughts will only make our journey harder than it needs to be. In addition, did you know that our brain does not understand negations? So this means that if you're thinking negatively and you say to yourself to stop overthinking those negative thoughts, then the brain does not understand the word don't, and it skips over that and continues to think. Which is why when somebody gives you the advice of to stop overthinking or don't think negative thoughts, does little to help you. So which brings me to this technique that I promised to share with you. But before getting into that, a little bit of context. The basis of this technique is that there is nothing positive or negative except what serves you. This means that every thought is contextual. So if any thought that makes you sad, less than, or it causes you any emotional discomfort, then that thought is said to be negative and clearly does not serve you. So here's what you need to do to shift your thinking from negative to positive. And this is a two-part technique. Let's get into it. First is to recognize that it is your choice. For example, when you think of yourself as somebody who is overthinking all the time or thinking negative thoughts, instead of looking at it as a habit, you have associated thinking negative thoughts with being a negative person. You have done that, no one else. So it's a choice. If you can think of yourself as being a negative person, guess what? You can also think the opposite. It is critical to understand that you have a choice. The meaning that you're associating with that thought. No one else. It's you. Once you know this, that you have a choice and no one else is causing you to have that thought, it's no less than having a superpower. And step number 2 is to flip the meaning that you've associated with your thought. And how do you do that? Well, it is very simple. All you need to do is to ask yourself that the meaning that you have given to this thought, does it serve you? If not, then you can choose to change the meaning. So let's take the same example. If you think of yourself as a negative person, does it serve you to think of yourself as a negative person? It doesn't. So that's the technique. It's that simple. I told you it is the simplest technique. May not be the easiest, but definitely the simplest. So in the end, I want to leave you with this, that if you don't like the quality of thoughts that you're having, you can change those thoughts by changing the meaning that you've associated with those thoughts. I know it won't be easy, but it's definitely doable. And the more you practice doing it, it will become second nature. Your thoughts are your choice. If you want further tips on how to pursue your goals without struggling, then check out these videos next. Till next week, remember, what you want matters, and it's really up to you to make it happen. Take good care of yourself. I will meet you in the next episode. See ya.